So yeah, welcome guys. Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this. I'm so excited to have you guys here. I'm really looking forward to having this discussion. I don't know how this idea came up, but it just dawned on me one day. Hey, let's hear what overachievers have to say. Let's hear their side of the story. Because when I was checking on YouTube, I just typed the word overachievers, and most of the videos sort of have like negative connotations, like you don't want to be an overachiever, how to not be an overachiever. And I'm like, I know overachievers who are great humans. So let me talk to them and hear their perspectives. And so this is how this came about. And also just to let you know that from now on, I'll not be using the word overachiever because who's to decide what's too much achievement, right? So
This is true.
So I'll be referring to you guys as extraordinary people, extraordinary humans. Yes. So so today we have Hilja and Nsuku. They both have YouTube channels. I will link them below if you want me to. I'll link them below. So Nsuku has a channel where she reviews books and she also interviews authors. And Hilja has a channel called Quarter Life where she documents her life and she shares, tips and wisdom about applying for scholarships, how to, get a scholarship, and when you get there, how to find accommodation, like just useful stuff like that. And yeah, I think both their channels are really cool and you guys should check them out. So yeah, this is my first time interviewing people on my channel and I'm very excited about it. Thank you guys for agreeing to do this. So yeah, I'll also be throwing my 3 cents in here and there on the questions. Even though I don't know, it's difficult to admit that you're an overachiever or to subscribe to that label. Because I think I don't know, am I the only one who gets choke slammed by imposter syndrome from time to time? But
you're in the club.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll be there throwing in my answers from time to time. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So before I jump into the questions, I just want to go through some of your achievements just so people, know what you guys have achieved so far in life. So we'll start with Nsuku. Nsuku was the deputy head girl in high school and she got academic honors. I'm not sure what that means. Like she was very smart, probably. And you passed matric with 7 distinctions. Did we not have 7 subjects?
7 official subjects. I did 8.
Oh my goodness.
Oh wow.
Wow. She's a Golden Key Honor Society member. Yay, fellow Golden Key. She did her BSc in Environmental and Engineering Geology at UP. She then did her honors in hydrogeology, also at UP. And then she went and did her master's in water science, policy and management at Oxford University. And she's a recipient of the Chevening Scholarship, and I don't know how to pronounce that, Trust Scholarship. Can you say it?
Weidenfeld-Hoffmann Trust.
Yes. She previously worked in the mining sector, and she currently works as a strategic water sector corporation officer at the Embassy of Denmark. She's also a poet and a booktuber, as I mentioned. And then, so yeah, maybe you can say hi.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Nomzamo. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. And now we move on to Hilja. Hilja was a top 10 student in high school. She was a learner representative council member. She got 2nd place in an English speech competition, She was an Ellen Gray Orbis Foundation Fellow, which is a very highly esteemed thing for me. Like, wow. And she founded NAMSOC in UP, which is a hub for Namibians at UP, which is really cool to make people feel at home, right? And she co-founded a mental health awareness campaign called How Are You? She was a delegate at the Brightest Young Minds Summit. She's also a fellow Golden Key International Honors Society Fellow. She is a 10X Academy Fellow, is or was? Is.
Good goal. I guess it's
And she is a Commonwealth Scholarship recipient. She also co-founded African Pathfinders Leadership Initiatives, which is making waves in Namibia. And she currently works as an assistant lecturer at the University of Namibia. She also recently, you forgot to mention that you recently graduated your master's degree at the London School of, it's a very long name.
Hygiene.
Hygiene and tropical diseases.
Medicine.
You know it's tropical somewhere.
Tropical medicine. Yeah. Sorry about that. So these are the people who I'm speaking to today. Let's just jump right into the questions. So Nsuku, tell us, were all your achievements intentional, or were you just living your life and then you happened to achieve stuff?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it's both, hey? In the sense that when you grow up with that culture that you love to achieve things, it's part of living your life, right? But then again, some of these things were also intentional. Like I wanted to get, that amount of distinctions, like I was working towards that. So I'd say it was intentional in that sense. I wanted to study abroad. So it was intentional in that I was doing the actions that would, get me there. Of course, facing whatever challenges came on the way. But yeah, I think it's definitely a bit of both, building that culture of, seeking to achieve your dreams, and also being intentional enough to courageously move in the direction of those dreams. So, yeah.
Yeah, wow. I love that. I love that it sounds like you've done everything for you, like you wanted to achieve it. It wasn't for, I don't know what else it could have been for, but it was for you. And I really like that.
True.
So, Hilja, have you always been aware that you are different or that you are an extraordinary human above average?
Such a weird question. Well, okay, not weird. It's a funny question because the word I would use is actually weird. I always knew that I was a little odd in life. And then I guess like the question is, how does that weirdness manifest? And I guess like in a way I'm thankful that it manifests in a way that I'm like a person that likes school and will probably be in school forever and like all this weird stuff. And then I'm trying, I don't think I always knew per se. Maybe there was some like standout turning moments where I'm like, oh, okay, you did that. Sort of why aren't my peers or like other people also doing a similar thing or like thinking a similar way? And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's just different.
Yeah. Why do you?
And then,
Sorry, continue.
No, and then it's just that like, it just, I guess I always think these things sort of build on each other. That like once you do one extraordinary thing, and then like it sort of spurs you on to do another, and then another, and another, and then like then you end up in this bubble. You're an extraordinary person, but like ordinarily you're just a person that does things. Yeah.
Why do you use the word weird or odd? Why is that?
Well, because like there's ordinary, right? And then there's like extraordinary, but it could be extraordinary in so many directions. Yes. But I think normal, and then there's just odd in many directions or weird in many directions. And it's just like hoping that those directions are positive, really, or like productive, or like beneficial to society, or like financially returning things and stuff like that. But I think even theoretically speaking, if you're raising a kid and you see that they're a little weird, I don't know if you know how that's going to pan out. You're just like, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Pray hard.
Yeah.
On your knees.
Yeah, but I can imagine, like, as a young, teenager or girl, realizing that, oh, like, why aren't people pursuing stuff? Why is it me? So maybe that's where I'm different or / weird. That's where that came from.
Yeah.
I hear you on that. So this question is for both of you. Have you felt under pressure to maintain your golden child status? Because I can imagine in both your families, you are like, you are seen as, wow, you are that child, the golden child. Not that that's a bad thing.
I'm thinking, am I?
That's what I'd imagine. I mean, does your mother have 2 children who went to Oxford? I don't know.
Maybe not Oxford. But no, I mean, I think I'm also a product of the role models in my family, right? So my sisters are also, as much as they're academics. They also went until master's level. So it's the inspirations themselves, they're doing well in their careers. So I think that's what environment. Golden child. But I think that in itself, you mentioned the issue of pressure. Nobody's outright said, Nsuku, you have to do this, or you have to go to Oxford, or, but they make you believe that you can do more, that you can be more. And then and what that does is you then sometimes take that on yourself and put pressure on yourself. And that can be both healthy and unhealthy, and sometimes it could swing both ways. So I've had it where it's pushed me, like there's almost like a step later in terms of matric performance. Like I was, the one sister said, I'm going to beat the previous sister. And I was like, I'll beat the previous sister. Wow. And now my brother's sitting here like he wants to beat me. So that's just, it's that, kind of, I think it's positive,
Hectic, yeah.
I don't think I've ever felt like, oh my goodness, these people, you should just stop, I think it's always been very encouraging. Although at times, and I think we'll probably get to this at some point, when you do face, and not so ideal outcome or failure, you're afraid of what they'll say. But you're always shocked at their response, because in essence, they love you for who you are and not the things you've done.
Yes.
So yeah, I think I felt positive pressure, or like a kind of encouragement. But I know for myself, I've probably have it swing a bit unhealthily sometimes. And that's just self-imposed. You make up what you think people expect you to do. And then you just, go full steam ahead on that path. But I think that's I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I love that. I also love that you're aware of, where to draw the line, where you're like, okay, this is me now. This is not necessary pressure. This is just me. And it's very good to have that awareness, self-awareness. So yeah, that's good to know that you are inspired by your environment and you're not constantly there like, I want to make it because no one made it, I think that's nice. Hilja?
Well, our family were not all academics and whatnot, which is so we're just all really different in our family. I feel like some people are better at like entrepreneurial stuff, and some people are better at like school, and other people are better at like, I don't know, like social stuff. Like I am this much I'm very convinced. So it's not just gonna go into like the entertainment industry and stuff like that. So
okay.
So I think there hasn't been, and I'm the second oldest sibling, so there hasn't been pressure think to like, perform, I do sometimes like worry, like I hope I'm not putting pressure on the ones below me. But then I just sort of just like reassure them that we're different. It is what it is. To maintain specifically, no, I think my attitude to school has always been very like, I try to not put pressure on myself to achieve a specific like grade or something like that. I mean, like ordinarily anyways, when I was growing up, even if I come home and I'm like, oh, you know, I got like, I don't know, let's say like 87% for something. And my dad would be like, but you could have gotten 90 something. And I'm like, I could have, but I didn't. So like, you know, I'm not, and then I'm not one to now the next time say like I'm working for a 90 something. Like I'll just be like, if it comes, that's great.
Is good enough for me.
Yeah. 87 is good enough for me. And like I'm always like trying to maintain a sort of like work-life balance, if I can call it that. So I don't want to sacrifice my social life and just life in general for that 90%. Like I always worry that like you look back and then you're like, oh, I cut out all these like normal life stuff so I can achieve these things, and it's not like they aren't like the core of life or whatever. But I guess in a similar like self-awareness sense, I also am conscious of the fact that like achievement, again, I guess does pile up. So for instance, if you want to get into like a really great PhD program, then you want to do well in your master's, or you want to do well in like whatever, you know. And then so specifically for my master's, I did want to like get a distinction. Because I was like, because for my, I guess like undergrad and like honors, I maintained that attitude where I was just like, oh, we'll see what Max come. And Max came and they were not like awesome. So I was like, so it's even like one of the reasons I was like, I should probably do a master's abroad. So it like ups my like academic profile type vibe. And then, school was rough. So I didn't even like attain distinction, nothing. But like I had a really good time. I learned a lot. So like, I guess like after the first couple of assessments, I was like, gotta change that. Let's just revert back to my former self, because there's no way to
embrace it. Embrace the experience.
But just the fact that you went, you were there, you were accepted, you did it, you passed. I think that's amazing. And and
I mean, like, I guess like even I don't know if this is like the right like train to like thingy off one, but like I think sometimes you can feel the pressure to like have the achievements or accolades or whatever, and then you maybe feel like without them your profile doesn't look as good, or you're not as golden or whatever. But it's really not the case, because like even with Ellen Gray, like I've always said throughout undergrad that like there's so many people that I met that I'm like, you are like classic Ellen Gray material, and they're like not on the scholarship. Like, I wish I could put you on, but I'd like, you know, but like, so it doesn't, the title itself or the award itself doesn't define who you are and what you can do, when with or without it, like you're probably a great individual. So
for sure. I'm so glad you said that. So for me, I'm just over here living my life, you know, just pursuing my dreams, pursuing my goals. And then you go out there and you hear parents telling their children, look at Nsuku, she did this and that. And then you're like, that's a lot of pressure. Like now you're like, okay, now I can't fail, because they are actually humans looking up to me or being told to follow in my footsteps. And then that's where the pressure comes from. But personally, for me, I'm just like Nsuku. I wanted to, you know, pursue my master's degree. I didn't really want to get a distinction, but I did. And that was really nice.
You got it for all of us.
So I think that's where the pressure comes from, when people tell you inspire them, or when you hear people preaching to their children to look to you, and then that's where you're like, ooh, I can't mess up now, you know.
But you know, technically even you, right? Like you're like, overachievers. I'm like, I did not overachieve anything. I'm just
know,
here
right?
trying to
I'm sitting there, like you go on LinkedIn, you're like, yeah, no, I'm doing nothing, hey? Like, so I think that's where you need to it goes back to what you're saying, like, what's overachievement? What's, baseline
like
achievement?
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, do you, I think, the end.
Yeah. Okay, so Hilja, do you work hard all the time, or would you say it comes naturally? Like, are you just over there applying for stuff and then, oh, I got it? Like, does it shock you? Or do you really like apply yourself?
It's a mix of both. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna audit your results. You're my roommate. Gonna audit you.
Literally in my head, I'm like, but I just told you guys this morning at 2 a.m. I didn't do any of the work I was supposed to do. Yeah, sort of a mix. I think like I'm trying to. There are certain like opportunities that I'm like, oh, I really want to get that. Like, it sounds really interesting. Like Bright Young Minds, for instance, like, people.
Can you say briefly what it's
Right,
about for someone who doesn't know?
It's actually just like a conference thing with like the top, I guess, 100 people across the continent.
Wow.
They used to have it every year, but I think they took like a break and whatnot. And then, I think they're back. But like, for example, Bright Young Minds. So when I was in first years, someone from Allen Gray like forwarded me the opportunity. They're like, maybe you should apply for this. And I was like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. So I said thanks and then like completely ignored it. And then I think come second year, maybe come third year, then a friend of mine is like, oh yeah, I'm applying for this thing, Bright Young Minds, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's apply together. And then he got it and then I didn't. And then I was like, I did too. So I'm just not nice. Accept it. And then he was sort of the one that like drilled it in my head that like, especially with these like application things, like it's obviously like how you present yourself, but it's also a lot of chance. Like the person that the group or whatever that is reviewing your thing could just be like, yeah, there's just, I don't like this thing that she put in her profile. And there's like all these subconscious biases that are obviously difficult to like remove as a reviewer. There could be just like a really competitive pool of Namibians that year, and there's like a cap on how many Namibians they can take. Or like, they could just be like, we have a lot of academics this year, and so we want to mix it up with some musicians. So like, you're a great academic, but just like, we just, and so it's sort of that. So that sort of comforted me that like, I mean, you can just do your life, type thing, and some applications work out and some don't. So then the next year I got to British Young Minds, so that was cool. But like in general, I mean that one I really wanted to go, because then I went to go realize the first year thing, and I was like, I could have been here in first year, like man. But
I'm really glad to hear you say that, because sometimes you apply for scholarships and you get rejected and you feel like so I'm like, I think I'm doing great, but I'm actually not. And whereas those people have their own quotas, and you were just not at the right place at the right time. That's all it is. It doesn't take away from what you've achieved and who you are.
That's true.
But it can also just be that you're genuinely, not in a rude way, but we're just not at the standards required that year. Like, it's also like, it's also like a realistic thing to
there you go,
accept,
bursting my bubble.
Combination. It's a combination, because like sometimes, like even like when we were looking at this achievement stuff, and I was looking at my CVs, and I was like, yeah, no wonder no one gave me a job like back then. Like, this was rubbish. And then with time, so even when you reapply, like ideally you improve your application, you change it, you check another angle, whatever.
I can write a book about that.
For real.
Anyway. Yeah, guys, flying abroad is a lot, but
Tell
we'll
us
get to
more.
me. You can carry on, Hilja.
Okay.
Or should I carry on?
Yeah, please.
Finish what you were saying.
Um, to answer the actual question, I mean, so I think I have like really nice focused times of work, which may come across as hard. And then I also have like times where I'm just like not doing anything, even though I should be doing things. So, but then what I did, I guess like a couple of years ago, check is that it's always harder to make me do things I don't enjoy doing, or things I'm not interested in. So if I'm excited about something, if I'm learning something new, or just like interested in like the research behind it, then like it almost comes, I have a natural curiosity. So then that that comes naturally. What, for instance, doesn't come naturally is writing, because it's supposed to be that reiterative process. Like I can read for days, but if you're like, write it down, I'm like, can't I just tell you a story?
You'd
like,
much rather draw a picture, wouldn't you?
Straight up, like I was always like, can't we do video recordings of like releases? Like I can tell you everything I did, but like writing it,
yeah, I feel you.
So stuff like stuff that I'm not good at, I have to work extra hard.
Okay.
So speaking of curiosity, bruh, remember how we used to like randomly collect like toilet rolls, like used toilet rolls in varsity, and we didn't know what it would end up as. We were just like curious, like, what kind of recycling project could this be? Just carried on. And I think that's actually something that Hilja, I think it was there, but I think she really sparked it in me. Just that desire to know. It's not about a test. It's not about an exam. It's just their inquisitiveness and how beautiful that can be. Yes. I mean, there's so many things we did, so many things we just questioned by ourselves randomly that weren't even linked to school. And I would go so far as to say, sometimes in the university setup, you can learn so much more outside the classroom than in the classroom. If you're curious enough, if you just want to know, you know. So I can definitely attest to Hilja's curiosity and how cool that is. Anyway, is it my turn? Sorry, I just
have the toilet paper roll still. Well, I have one that I've kept alive,
right? As a
with Hilja, you'd walk out of class and then she'd be asking herself, the lecturer said this, I wonder if it could apply to this. And then you're like, actually.
Exactly.
I remember actually I used to text Nomzamo all the food science ideas in the world. Like when I was like, can we eat coal?
You were like, it's carbon though.
Like, it's carbon based. And we're carbon based. So surely there should be something.
I mean, and that's Hilja for you. Yeah, I love that.
There's the extraordinary.
Okay.
Yes, working hard. Me. I'll take it from where Hilja left it in terms of sometimes we you do have those moments of like focus. Because I remember like Hilja and I would be studying at like odd hours of the night in the library, and then around like midnight or the AMs would go for ice cream and McDonald's and come back. But there's those moments of like focus and intensity. But again, it depends on the time frame, right? Like if it's a test that you're writing in the next couple of days, I really like put in the work there. But sometimes it's like a longer term goal. Like studying abroad is technically a long-term goal because the application process is like 2 years or 1 year before you go that you actually start doing the work. So you really work hard towards that. But I think generally, I think I'm getting a bit of a balance. I used to be really intense. Like, I used to be like, intense. Like I had study schedule. I planned everything. I lived by the diary. I still do, but I don't think it's as hectic anymore. It was like, if it's not in the diary, it's not happening. That's just how it is, you know? But I think I've become more spontaneous over time, and I've just embraced more like energy management rather than time management, understanding where you're more active or where you're more productive and leveraging those times to do the most work. And when you're tired, give yourself time to rest. That kind of balance, I think that's where I'm at. So I definitely think I am still a hard worker, but again, it's towards a certain goal, towards a specific thing.
So to someone who is currently where you were in the past, where everything is scheduled, everything is done to the T, would you encourage them to start balancing now, or do you feel that back then that's what you needed to get things done, and this is the time, this is the phase in life where you can start balancing and being spontaneous?
I think it depends, hey? As in, people are different. So at that time, especially like first year, I was just like, I needed to adjust. So I didn't do any social things. I just wanted to really make sure I had my academic base sorted, before I branched out. And I mean, looking at first year results, yes, that was definitely good and wise of me to do. And then after that, I think I was more flexible in terms of my goals, and also other things came into the mix. But in essence, I wanted to have a balance between doing well in school and still being social. But in any case, university is also about making you, or studies are about making you a well-rounded individual.
Yeah.
So I don't think it is wise to just be completely one-sided, just go ham on the one side, because you learn certain skills that actually help you in the workplace beyond the certificate or beyond the degree. When you begin to engage with people, when you are, whether it's a society or whether it's church or whatever, just finding that social engagement. So I think if there's something that's like that intense, you can't run at full speed for 4 years. It's not healthy. It's not okay. I think you can still be dedicated, committed to your studies for 4 years, but allow yourself time to rest, make friends. And you'll find the balance, because balance isn't, when you talk about work-life balance, it doesn't mean 50-50. Neither does it mean giving, it doesn't mean giving the same amount of time to everything. It means giving the adequate time to everything as and when it needs it, and that's a dance, it's not always like set in stone, but yeah. So for somebody who's like that intense, I'd say kudos to you for being, super hyper-focused on your studies, but also be kind to yourself. Hey, engage with other people and give yourself a timeout. I don't know.
Yeah. And I love that you say people are different, because I remember Hilja, for example, she could start studying for something or start an assignment like 2 days before. And that gave me so much anxiety because I couldn't do it. I could never. And that's just how I am. That's just, how she is. And that's just how I am. So yeah, I love that you say people are different and you just need to figure out what works for you. So, so the next question is, tell me about the first time you failed at something and how it felt. So I can answer this one first. So for me, when I decided to quit my job to pursue my master's degree, it was, I made a video on this. It was a very nice job, very well paying. I was doing well. Decided to quit it, do my master's degree, and I thought, yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm ready for this now. And then my proposal presentation went completely horrible. It was the most horrible experience ever. And I remember having an actual panic attack that night, because I was like, I gave up everything to come and do this. And then I just failed, and they're telling me that it's horrible. What am I going to do now? And then I learned in therapy that your whole life you've been coping by achieving. And now that you failed, it's like your whole world is closing in on you. And so, yeah, that was a very interesting experience for me, but yeah, we get through it. And yeah, here we are now. You just pick yourself up and you dust off the bad vibes, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, tell me about a time where you failed, as someone who's used to achieving stuff.
Can I go first?
Yeah,
sure.
Because I feel like mine is okay. It's related in terms of keywords. It's actually a really different scenario.
Keywords, you can tell you write articles. You just keywords.
So mine's also master's related. That's the keyword.
Yeah.
So I was doing my master's as well here locally. And then it was just not progressing. There were clashes with my supervisor, and just problems with the like technical essay itself, and like ended up like I don't know, like second to third year of my master's, and still like the proper essay wasn't hashed out yet. Like this is before we could actually even start the experimental stuff. And also like it was a topic I wasn't really enjoying. So it was a bit of like a drag for me, like personally. But then in my head, I was like, well, I plan to do a master's, this ticks the box, get it done. Yeah, like I was sort of telling myself like it doesn't matter so much about like the topic, but more like the techniques and whatever. Anyways, it was not going well. And then I was sort of like stuck, like, okay, do I push through and finish? I mean, it's already like 2 to 3 years of my life, like sort of wasted now, like blah, blah. And should I quit? But then also like, because I had started like the master's and a postgrad diploma at the same time, and I'd like spoken about it and whatnot, and then I finished the postgrad diploma. Then I was like, okay, so like, do I just tell people I quit the master's? Like, I was sort of like maybe ashamed of that because people were like, oh, 2 degrees. I was like, yeah, 2 degrees. Yeah, so I guess, and I think it's also like a bit about the pressure you were saying earlier, like that self-imposed thing where you think people expect this and this of you. And then I had to come to like a semi-crossroads to be like, yeah, regardless of what people expect, this is my life at the end of the day, and I need to like derail it how I see fit, and like what's more important, is like ticking this box and getting this master's more important, or is like my emotional well-being more important, and like are there other ways to get this master's? Like this is my goal, but like how else do I go around it and stuff like that? So so it was a really dramatic end to that master's. Yeah, no, but I did feel, I do sort of count it as a failure because it was like not ideal. I think like maybe even sooner I could have like intervened, so that it didn't end up being a 2-3 year situation, or like could have handled it better in some other ways. And also it's just not like fun to like quit stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean it worked out for the bit. I actually can't remember the second half of your question. You said just about a time that I failed. Cool.
Yeah, when you failed, and how did it feel? I think you're doing a good job so far answering the question.
Yeah, well, okay, maybe like the main thing is just that like I did feel like, I should commit to this thing I said, like there's that whole notion of like finish what you started and blah blah and all these like random motivational stuff. And then I was just like, it's just, I mean, I may die emotionally if I finish what I started, and I don't want to. And I wouldn't be happy.
I think there's so much power in accepting and realizing that, you know what, this is not working. Let's stop and try something else, even though it's difficult. As an extraordinary person to leave something halfway.
And and in general, the life is big. There are many ways to like skin the cat and whatnot. But obviously, like you're a bit lost, like, mostly because I like to plan things. So it's sort of like, okay, so now I had planned to do this, and now I'm like derailing the plan. Okay, how can I like restructure my plan? Okay, how do I make this work? Do I just register for another master's here? Do I go back to SA? Do I go abroad? How do I get abroad? Are the scholarships? Yeah. Then you make it happen, and then it works out, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
You're like, oh. Oh gosh. I'm torn between two. Okay, but you said the first time, right? Okay, so let's deal with the first one.
Or maybe not necessarily the first time, but because the master's thing for me wasn't the first time. The first time was when I failed the chemistry test in first year.
I was actually just thinking,
I remember that one.
Yeah.
And I remember bumping into Hilja at
the rescue.
Because we were both confused, like, me fail?
Like CMY 117, right? It was the first Joanne. I remember you guys were shocked because I paused it and you were like, what's happening with this kid?
Like, we were shocked. Like, when you're so shocked and you even go to the lecturer, you're like, lecturer, how?
I know
Me, I'm
that
just like,
struggle.
I
Yeah,
guess
so
they
not
could have built
necessarily the
different.
first time you failed, but like a significant fail in your life,
Significant fail.
yeah, a game
Well, in
changing
my
fail.
first year, yeah, no, first year definitely as well. Like because I was doing my degree was, like you said, environmental and engineering, geology. So the geology modules and I were vibing very well, like we're good. And then the engineering modules were like, hey. So yeah, I think SWK was probably my first academic failure. I'm glad that happened in first year, hey guys, because like I think it like took me off my high horse. Like it broke me, to be honest, because I realized that so much of my worth, my confidence, my value was attached to my academic performance.
Yeah.
And like for the first time, I was like, so who am I if I'm not the smart kid?
Sure.
Because I know I'm not the popular kid. I know I'm not, I don't know, the famous one or whatever, but I know that I'm the smart kid, and I've always been the smart kid.
It's what
but
you
when
had
you get
going
to first
for you.
year, it's what I had going for me. I was like, you know what? When I apply bad teacher and study, like things happen. And then,
The magic happens.
the magic happens. But I think, and this is when you realize that it can be toxic, because in my first year, I think I had 12 modules and I think 10 distinctions. But the one that I didn't fail, that I didn't pass, or the one that was a SAP, actually, it wasn't even a fail yet. It broke me so much. Like I remember, I can even see the scene already, me crying in my room and, all of that. I was like so depressed. I went to the lecturer, everything, guys, it was just messed up. But what that also did was it broke my confidence and my intelligence for a long time. Not because of that single moment, but because next year, like my performance also declined. Like I didn't trust myself anymore to really, like, if I put in the work, I'm gonna,
Sure.
And I literally was like, I became an average student. Like, when you start dancing for a 50, you're like, I passed, and I thought, whoa, what happened, And I think I went through that dip where I was just scraping through. And I know that at the base of that was really just not thinking I'm smart anymore, just not thinking, and I really struggled with that. I think that's part of like what I've termed, I'm pretty sure someone else calls it this, the latent effects of failure. So sometimes you get through the failure and you pick yourself up, you still go to school and everything, but there's that little voice that tells you, remember that could happen again. And it did happen again. I did stop again. I did fail a module. I did write a special exam to like make sure I pass in record time. Everything that I thought would never happen when I started first year happened, academically. And and I had to really like do the work to encourage myself that my worth does not lie in my marks.
Yeah.
Neither does my intelligence, like my ability to solve problems, my ability to be creative, like my poetry writing boomed in that season as well. Like while I was writing, I was performing, all these things. And I'm actually glad it happened because of the fact that it got me to see beyond school, and that's why I was like, I used to be intense.
You are more than that.
I'm more than that. I embraced societies. I was doing mentorship. I was doing a lot of things. And I think that added to me becoming the person that I am now. And so I think that was probably one significant thing that I had to work through and deal with and start to be ambitious again, to dream again, and still believe that whether or not I get what I'm gunning for doesn't mean I'm not worthy of it. I'm gonna keep going. And that's when I started dreaming again about the UK, because I'd even forgotten about wanting to go abroad. And I dreamt about it. And that's why I was saying I'm torn, because even going to the UK, like the first time around, I think I got a job offer, so I went to work. But the second time around, I went hard. Like I applied to every scholarship you can think of, and I got rejected by all of them. Like when I counted, including the people that were silent, I wrote to the presidency, I wrote to everybody. I wanted so badly to go because I had admission, but I had like 10, 12 rejections if you really count the people that also didn't respond. And that was hard. That was so that's like a second type of failure that I faced. That was like, so is this thing not happening?
Yeah.
But fast forward to exactly, right? But fast forward to 2019, and when I applied again, my interest has changed. initially I wasn't applying to Oxford. I was applying to other universities. I was applying for a very technical degree. But over the years, my interest in water broadened, to policy, to management, to the social issues. And as my taste got refined, I guess, I then thought, let me shoot my shot at Oxford, because they had the perfect course that encapsulated all those, things. And so I think I applied there. I got in and I applied to like the one scholarship. Like I was tired of like applying to scholarships now.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But I was like, let's just apply to Chevening, and then eventually I got in, and like that. And it took a lot. It took a lot of encouragement, even from family and friends, to really just that last push to apply again, and ended up with 2 scholarships, the second one, which I didn't apply for. But I can tell you that beautiful story had like a whole year of depression from the 10, 12 rejections I got, So those are the 2 things that I went through. But sorry, I'm rambling. But there was the one movie that kept, getting me through was Meet the Robinsons, which is like a cartoon. I love animation, by the way. So I watched Meet the Robinsons, and in it, like the kid is doing like this mechanism for a PB&J sandwich, and it fails. And then the whole family, the Robinsons family, like clap for him, and they're like, "Congratulations to Lewis. May this failure." Oh yeah, she said, "Congratulations on your failure. May it lead to greater success in the future." And I think that gave me a developed or a refined, or let's just say a new relationship with failure. Yeah. I think while you have a relationship with success, while you have a relationship with achievement, you need a healthy relationship with failure. Yeah, because failure is part of the package, right? Yeah, it's part of the package. You won't always get what you want, and you have to have a healthy relationship with it. And now I think through those, things that I went through, I've since had a better relationship with it, to say, sure, it sucks. Sure, it's, you feel the pain. It doesn't mean that you don't get disappointed. It doesn't mean you don't cry, but you pick yourself up, and you do not define yourself with the failure. If you want, you wear it like a necklace, so it has a front row seat to your success. You're just like, listen, it's part of who I am. I'm not ashamed of it anymore. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's where that's all I was torn. Sorry, I put 2 of them because I think they've both defined my outlook on things now, Yeah, and I'm not afraid to dream again. Or fail.
That's wonderful. Yeah. To think that if you had passed everything in first year, you wouldn't have, gone through all of this and become this person, and have this outlook on failure. So yeah, as you say, it hurts, but sometimes it's necessary.
Sometimes it builds you. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you guys say your upbringing, I know, Nsuku, you mentioned that you and your siblings were competitive, but would you say your upbringing has anything to do with what you have achieved? So for me, I know that where my push came from is realizing that if I don't work hard and get a bursary, I don't think my parents are going to be able to afford to take me to varsity, and pay for everything. So I need to get a bursary, and for me to get a bursary, I need to work hard. So that's where it came from for me. But for you guys, like, what is it about your upbringing, if anything, that has contributed to you being an extraordinary human?
Yeah, that extraordinary. I think I'll start. I'll be brief though. I think the biggest contributor was also that both my parents were lecturers at some point, and my early childhood was literally in the university. So my parents lived on campus at the University of Limpopo. So I attended a lot of graduations as a kid, and you're just seeing people in gowns.
And you're like, even me one day.
Listen, like hearing that, is it a Latin song that plays when graduates go in and out?
That's the one,
Yes. So I actually think that made such an impression on me, and I think definitely that made an impression on me, and my parents themselves being academics. Definitely that encouraged me to do more. But again, like what you said, also financially, I had to push for those bursaries because I also knew that it would be, I mean, while they would try, they would definitely make it happen, but it would be really tough. So yeah, it definitely encouraged me to push for that financial support and pay it off, I guess.
Okay. And you, Hilja? I remember you once mentioned that your dad is the one who inspired you to be a curious person, or like who triggered that thing to always ask why. So besides that, like,
maybe that's my only thing. I'm joking. Yeah, okay, obviously, like, it started with my dad, and then I guess, like, even the sort of shade that, like, when I achieve something, he'll be like, oh, but you can do better, and I'm like, I think it's all, yeah,
was in your subconscious.
Yeah, it was in my subconscious, like, you could do better if you know, and he always had this thing of, like, even if you do something that's like, I don't know, whatever, he'll be like, yeah, but, like, whose daughter are you, you know, like, obviously I expect this of you, like, it's bare minimum because you're my daughter, like, you know. And then I had this, like, thing in me as if it's, like, inbuilt that I'm gonna do great. So, like, I think it gave me, like, a bit of comfort, I guess. A other key thing would maybe be my brother sort of said to me somewhere in high school, I don't even know why I was complaining, because high school was so silly in hindsight, but I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore, or, like, I actually have no idea what I was complaining about. But he was just like, yeah, I mean, if you don't want to do it, you could just drop out. And I was like, excuse me, are you telling a 15-year-old to drop out of school? Like, what? And then I guess, like, the take-home message in my head ended up being that, like, if I don't want to do, like, I'm doing this for me, you know, like, I do this out of my own energy. I do this because I like it. I do, like, I don't have to do it. I don't have to study or perform or whatever, you know. I could do whatever I want. And then I guess also just the way we were raised, like, both my parents, it's a sort of, like, independence to it. Like, I've been in boarding school since I was, like, 11 or whatever. And then with it came, like, the sort of autonomy to, like when it came to, like, applying for high schools, like, just, okay, actually, when it came to, like, going into boarding school, they're like, okay, we're moving. Do you want to move with us, or do you want to go into boarding school? I was like, okay, I think it would be a better choice to stay here because they're better schools than you go into boarding school. It came to high schools, like, okay, you know, sort yourself out. I applied to my own high schools where, like, it was actually quite funny. Like, going around with my uncle, like, dropping off forms, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just trying to get into school. But, like, he was, like, not an academic person at all. So he was just like, what? Like, and then similarly with, like, uni, or, like, yeah, I was like I stumbled across the Alan Gray thing, and I was like, oh, okay, I mean, scholarships are great. Like, I wasn't a very I don't know if the word is wake up person when I was younger. So it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, let me just apply for this. And then, so I've just sort of just done what I want, and they've been okay with that, I guess, like, along the lines of, like, trust and so forth. And then it's just been like, if I want to do something, I should just make it happen, because like, it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, I just want to go to the UK, and then they'll just be like, oh yeah, here's money, you know. It was like, if you want to go, make it happen.
You have to make it happen.
So I must apply for scholarships. Yeah, that's I guess been like that, I think, or like that contribution in terms of how they raised us is just, you want to do something, you sort of make an argument for it, and then you, like, do whatever is within your power to make it happen. And then and, like, they'll support when they can, but, like, they're not super involved in, like, processes like that. Like, even when you went to UP, I remember you got there, and then people were coming with their parents, like, moving into res with their parents, and I was like, what? Like, I was so like, where are my parents? Am I even loved? But it was just
dramatic,
like,
much.
I know, I was like walking through the streets of Hatfield, like, if I die, no one's even gonna know where I am. And that time calling home was so expensive even, so I was just there like, I've arrived. And then they're like, oh, why are you calling? Where are you getting money from to call? I'm like, no, okay, bye. I just wanted to say I'm safe. But very funny.
Wow.
But I feel like it did, like, give me the autonomy to just like do things. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So right now, today in 2021, 13 December, what motivates you right now? Like lately? I know for me, it's like, for me, there's so many problems in the world sometimes, and you feel burdened by so many things, and you want to solve all these problems, and then you're just like, okay, let me just finish with what I'm doing right now, and then I'll move on to the next thing. So I think that's what it is for me. But I also find that like my PhD project is part of a bigger project, which is solving a whole bunch of things, and that feels good. So knowing that my research is like a piece of a bigger puzzle, that's very nice to know. And yeah, so I guess that's what motivates me. Like, other people are working, let me work also, and let's solve this thing together. But yeah, what's motivating you right now?
I guess like I'm trying to decide on a PhD topic and whatnot right now. And so I don't know if motivates is the right word, but what is spurring me on, I guess, is like just to get exposure to different things.
Yeah.
And then like see which one like I actually want to pursue for a PhD. So I'm trying to be very like skills focused for the next year or so. So I'm taking on things that would teach me different types of skills and expose me to different markets. And then like from there, now see which one I actually want to pursue for my PhD, or if I just want to change industry, sort of like go out of academia for a bit and like, I don't know. Yeah. So I think that's where I'm mentally, I don't like, it motivates us. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to, build your skills so you can move on to the next thing. I think that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I am.
Nsuku?
Yeah, I think also it's just the desire to make a difference. Like Hilja and I in varsity, we used to be like, how are we going to change the world? We had this like change the world mindset.
How are people still dying? Children, how are they still dying?
I know, right? We're like, no.
How are we still dying while giving birth? This needs to stop.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think we had that sort of, desire to make an impact beyond us. Yeah. Our immediate family, I guess. Yeah. So I think I still have that. And sometimes it can get overwhelming because as much as you're working, like I'm working in the water sector, and you still see like issues around, other fields that you're like, I don't know enough, but like we need to do something. Yeah. So I think it's that, like being motivated to have more influence in your field, but also, even have the finances to make the investment where it's needed. So there's that desire to also be financially, equipped to do more. So I think those are like the motivators to really make a difference, man, to change lives, whether it is to inspire or to empower or to enable. Like if my breathing can make the next person's breathing just a lot easier or a lot better, like, I've done my part. So yeah, I think it's really that. And so that can also exhibit itself in different ways. Like sometimes it's in my direct, like day-to-day work. Sometimes it's in my poetry. And I think at the core of it is also in just my being, just who I am. And I'm also motivated by the people around me. People are doing great things, man. Like people are like, doing the most amazing things. And it's good to see. And it's encouraging, and it motivates me to also do more, like to whom much is given, much is expected. So I also feel that responsibility from, what I've been able to get access to. How do I do more with it? So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I actually want to like add that's actually like, in terms of pressure, that's sort of a huge pressure source for me, that like I feel like I've been blessed with like really good, like to just be like to have access to different spaces and like to learn this in this context and to what and to what. And it's sort of been like okay, I need to like deliver on what I have been given. So even like the skills thing, it's really like coming from a place of, so I guess like for me personally, that whole thing of to whom much has been given, much will be expected has always been like a huge source of internal pressure for me. That, you know, it was actually said at church once, like it was like, what are these booming things on speakers? And for some reason it just like stuck. But I've always felt like, you know, I've been given access to these places. I've met these people. I've been able to achieve this and this and this. And like, obviously at the end of the day, it's all like a huge blessing in that respect. So I've always felt like I need to deliver on what I've been given. And like, even like this notion of being like the hands and feet of Christ, and like hands and feet of Christ. So like, how do I exemplify that? How do I live that out like day to day or like in my life and whatnot? So even this thing about, you know, me wanting to learn specific skills, it's because I'm like, okay, within the public health sector, actually like health, like sort of what you're saying about like there's so many problems. It's like, okay, I care about a lot of things, obviously. And then it's like, okay, cool, let's zoom in on healthcare. There are infectious diseases, because I think infectious diseases are interesting, like the whole pathogen thing. It's like, what? You just infect my body, man.
Like the virus can't live without me as the host. Like, so it just decides to come.
Oh, God.
And then within that, you know, like there's the question of like, where can I have the most impact? Like which diseases are actually plaguing people within my context? Excuse me. And then which diseases are like randomly interesting, because vectors are interesting, like this whole malaria thing. And then so like, for instance, I did my project on like malaria, my master's project, but like we learned so much stuff during the master's around like vector control, but also like diagnostics, but also therapeutics. And then it's also like, okay, I don't know which one to focus on specifically. I don't know which one will have the most impact, or which one is most aligned to my skill set or my aptitude or like my personality and whatnot. So I think it's sort of like, right now I'm like, okay, I've learned a ton of cool things. I sort of know which diseases I care the most about at this juncture anyways, which is TB and malaria. I want to see then how I can be impactful in either. And then I'm like, okay, what skills don't we have in Namibia? So like, let me learn those so I can hopefully be impactful in those specifically.
Wow. Filling gaps.
And then fill the gaps. And it's sort of like a strategic, like in a couple of years, hopefully then like there'll be like good market for it. But like the other question is also like, why hasn't there been market for it? Maybe there isn't. Like the other thing is sometimes you learn something and then you realize no one's going to pay you for it. So we'll see how it pans out. But I think like right now, those are the things that sort of that are like motivating my thought process, at least around the decisions that I'm taking and like stuff. And also, I guess like even age, right? A bit that, you know, I mean, I don't know when you're supposed to have a proper career. I'm always shocked that like, what? Almost 27? But I guess along like later in life, I plan to be like consulting at some point. So it's also, what does a consultant's CV look like if you look back at it? You know, where do they start? And I think that they start by like exposing industry, that when they consult, they can speak from all these angles. So that's also like a thing that you like work around and work towards, and like stuff like that. Yeah. End of
Wow. You really have everything worked out. And you've really given this so much thought, and I just love that.
Yeah, definitely again, a lot of thought.
Yeah, no, I really do wish you all the best. So now we're going to jump into like assumptions or misconceptions people have about being an extraordinary human. So I posted a poll on Instagram, and I got one response. I got one response. I don't know if Nsuku you got, Hilja.
Let me just forward the other ones I got.
So one person said what comes to mind for them when they think of the word overachiever is perfectionist. And I think from this discussion, I think that's not true, because you guys both mentioned that balance is important. You also need to have a social life, and sometimes just getting through, gaining the friends, the experience, the exposure, sometimes that's enough. You know, you don't always have to be the best and be at the top. So
yeah, but I also think perfectionism has levels. So sometimes you want everything in your life to be perfect, and I think that's like really extreme. But there's also like perfectionism when it comes to like attention to detail in your work. And you just want everything to be perfect. Like, I think I have subtleties of that where like, like I cringe if I see a typo in my work, or if I do something and it's not, and I've had to like control it to realize, sure, you make mistakes. But again, if it can be harnessed, where it just means you want to do good work, and you have that eye for detail. So yeah, to some extent, yes, but again, it can also have its extremes.
Yeah, like a sort of, I think like a better manifestation of it is like standards of excellence type thing.
True,
like, this
exactly.
Where you want to perform at, and like, not that you have sleepless nights trying to, just because I'm unable, because I was going to say rewriting this one paragraph, but then I realized I'm coming from bias because I hate writing.
I think, I totally agree with that. I think as much what you can control, you can try and be perfect about what you can control. But sometimes, like when I'm writing maybe an article, a journal article or something, I'll just submit it as is, because I'm like, they're gonna say stuff anyway. So
it is what it is.
I'm not gonna spend days on this one sentence trying to get it perfect. Like,
no, true.
I think my best. But I
think that's
definitely
where
agree. There's a whole like spectrum of perfectionism.
A spectrum, exactly.
Definitely should strive for excellence where you can.
Yeah,
where you
I think excellence is actually a better word than perfectionism, because sometimes you're even afraid to submit it because you know it's not perfect, and that's where it stifles you. You're even afraid to start because you don't think it's going to be perfect. So I think definitely striving to do your best and excellence, that's probably a better trait to have.
Okay, so there's more. Someone said someone who's a hard worker. I think I agree with that. That came out in this discussion for sure.
I mean, but also some people are sort of just like naturally gifted, right? And then they just, I don't know people's lives, but like they were just people that I feel like in school that were just performing, and I was just confused. Like, what? How? When do you study, my guy? We're just doing great. But then obviously, like, people absorb information in different ways and blah, 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 blah. So I guess actually maybe it's also a question of what we traditionally, or like what is normally accepted as hard work. Like we think it's, the hours that you're sitting at your desk, but maybe it's like also for some people, just the time they spend in their mind, or the people they speak to, and like how many YouTube videos they watch and stuff like that. Like it's all time. It's all resources, technically, whether it's in terms of time or whether it's, actually time is the key.
For sure. And also it goes back to people being different. Like you say, some people just, they just nail it with minimal effort. And then there's us who, like, if I don't study, I will not get through. That's just knowing that and realizing that I am this person. So I need to, this is hard work for me, and this is what it takes for me.
Yeah.
Other people said, I'm just going to name the things that came up. So there was jealousy, procrastination, insecurities, imposter syndrome, and people pleaser. So guilty as charged on the procrastination, not going to lie. Imposter syndrome for sure, always. But people pleaser, insecurities, when we spoke about when they reject your application, but I've learned now that sometimes it's just not your time, or maybe you need to spend more time working on what you really want to do before you apply for the thing. So yeah, there's that from me. I don't know if you guys wanna.
I mean, I guess like a thing worth pointing out is that a lot of those seem negative. But like we perceive things differently. Like someone's idea of what an overachiever might be someone that like, you know, tramples on like Wolf of Wall Street vibes, you know, when you trample on everyone to like achieve your goals or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas for someone else, it's obviously not that hardcore type thing. Yeah,
I agree. Like most of these, you know, misconceptions are actually negative, as you say. So, and I'm glad we had this discussion today, you know, to hear from the extraordinary humans' mouths. You know, like you can be extraordinary and achieve balance.
Avoid your titles.
You know, I should put on my CV.
Extraordinary human, right? Yeah, I think, I guess again, it's about perspective, and I think sometimes we do run the risk of downplaying our achievements because either we're trying to be humble or whatever, but we do have to acknowledge that there's somebody out there that does look at your achievements and is encouraged or is inspired and is like, wow. Because I struggled with that. I'm just like, no, it's not that deep, guys. But I think what that does is sometimes is you stop telling your story because you think it's not, you know, worth telling. But that also robs somebody of the chance to be inspired. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's like it's a balance. Of course, you know, be humble still, but that does not mean, you know, ignore the facts of the things you have learned and the things you have achieved. And let them also, that also motivates you that I was able to do this. I can definitely do more. So
love
maybe
that.
It's like, maybe a tiny thing actually is that that I've come to learn / appreciate is that like a lot of personality traits aid and harm. Like there's like two sides to like every personality trait. Maybe it's not even a personality, but to most things. For instance, for me, like I'm a very fast reader. So like that's why like with school, I'll like skim, and I'm done. But it also with it, I sort of can't listen well. So like in conversation, if someone's speaking to me, like I like get distracted very easily, and I'm like it's almost, and I'm sort of making the point in the sense that like there isn't like a bundle of things that make someone achieve. Even when you're like looking at someone's life story, there isn't like if I'm like this, and I make sure that I organize myself like this, I will definitely achieve. Like you might, but you also might not. There might be other ways for you to achieve. Achievement might look different for you. I guess that, because I always like worry that, you know, you'd want to be a specific way, and you know, to each character trait is good and bad.
And you are your own person. I think it's also the concept of mentorship, right? Like when you see somebody and you want to be like them or they mentor you, it's not so much about becoming a mini version of them. It's about learning from their experience to become the best version of you. And I think that's also the idea of when you tell your story, you're not hoping people want to copy and paste, but they get insight of what's possible, and they go become their own version of great, you know?
Sure. This is so good, guys. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of this discussion. So if people have any further questions, they can just post them in the comment section, and if I can't answer it, I'll tell you guys to come and answer your question. And thank you so much. This was so good.
Thank you for having us.
Subscribe.
Right.
Don't forget to
click the notification bell.
No, I don't do that. So I don't ask people to do that.
I actually don't do it on mine, but it's easier to do it on yours.
I always hear it. I'm like, okay.
Please, man.
Thanks a lot for having us, Nomzamo.
No, it's a pleasure. Let me stop the recording. Cool.